reports. Are there any corrections, comments? Well, can I move for the adoption of the reports? Member Phillips, seconded Member Campbell. Okay, thank you. Today, members, we really have the matter of the expenditure. It's a continuation. We had done the expenditures, emergency expenditures under COVID. One had been left, expenditure for Ocherios cleanup. We will take it. It shouldn't take us very long. Before that, I'll just indicate it is the Minister of Finance has seemingly gone through all the processes that needed to be, there are steps that needed to be taken, and it is, we're waiting on the final determination, but it's my understanding that they're going to try and they would like us to meet on Tuesday of next week, Tuesday morning, and take the supplementary budget. There'd be no parliament to allow us to complete, and then they would put a sitting of parliament for Wednesday. That was the information given to me by the Minister of Finance. Seemed to have had a discussion with the clerk and with the leader of government business. We are waiting for final confirmation, but I just put it to the committee so that we can make the necessary arrangements. Are there any comments on that? Okay. All right, so with that, we would invite our guests to come in. As I said, I think today our meeting can be unusually brief, all things considered. Yes. Come. Yes, how are you? I almost didn't recognize you in the mask. Almost didn't recognize you. Almost. Charlie, how are you? Nice to see you. Absolutely. How are you? It's Brown. You can socially distance as required. All right, just to say, members, as I said, welcome everyone who is here. Today is we're hoping to have a very brief meeting. The issue is that we're doing the emergency expenditures for COVID, and this had been left off of the discussions that we had week before last, where we had the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Labor, etc., etc. So we're just tidying up the last expenditure. Today we have with us the Ministry of Tourism. I see the person and her team. The Ministry of Local Government, represented by, you want to just, all right. Yes, just for the answer. The mic.
Sorry. Yeah. Good morning, members and chairman. PS Local Government, Marsha Henry Martin, and the CEO, St. Anne Municipal Corporation, and his team.
Excellent. Okay, that's the CEO. His name?
Good morning, chairman, members. Rovel Morris.
Okay, good. And of course, Ms. Griffith from the Ministry of Tourism. And that's it. We don't have any other departments, ministries, agencies here today, right? Okay. All right.
Chairman, I would have members of a TF team with me.
Yes. Okay. Oh, absolutely. With him. All right. So, well, let me just start. What I could do, PS, maybe you could introduce your team, And then I would ask the Ministry of Local Government and St. Anne just to introduce your team so we know who is here, and then we can just proceed.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the PAAC. Let me first introduce the team from the Tourism Enhancement Fund that are with me today. To my left is Mr. Johan Rampier. He's Director of Projects in TEFT. Behind me, Ms. Carol Rose Brown. She is the Director for the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation. And immediately behind me is Mrs. Carol McNall-Riley, and she's the Director of the Tourism Linkages Network. And they're all staff of the TEF, of course.
From the ministry. Okay. The ministry, you're here with.
Thank you, Chairman, again. Just to introduce the team from the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. Immediately behind me is the Principal Finance Officer, Mrs. Anisha Gordon-McFarlane. And the ministry's other two representatives would be Mr. Dwight Wilson, who I think is on the furthest row, and also Ms. Trika Lewis, who is the Secretary for the Board of Supervision. The same team retained from our last appearance. And of course, Mr. Rovel Morris, CEO of St. Anne Municipal Corporation, who will introduce his team.
Okay.
Good morning again. I'll just ask them to indicate, as I mentioned, then we have Everton Ricketts, he's our Chief Engineer Officer. We have Mr. Xavier Monroe, Deputy Chief Engineer Officer. We have Ms. Ingrid Palmer, she's our Acting Chief Financial Officer. We have Nicola Gale, she's our Auditor. And we have Ms. Lisa Mignot, our Executive Officer.
Excellent. Welcome everybody. Has anybody been left off? Everybody's accounted for.
Chairman, I should apologize for the absence of Dr. Kerry Wallace, Executive Director for the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today.
Okay.
But Director of Projects is here, who is able to respond to the questions.
All right. All right. As I said, what I think would be important, we could start just the expenditure, just in other words, how it came about. We don't need in other words, how the expenditure came about, and that expenditure would have gone. Would it have gone through the Ministry of Local Government, or it goes straight to the Municipal Council?
It would have been a transaction between the Ministry of Tourism through TEF and the Municipal Corporation.
Okay, so what we could do is probably take this, just, this as part of what sort of program, how this occurred, and then we will just move to the actual expenditure.
Okay. So, Chairman, the project that we're discussing today is funding support to mitigate against COVID-19, and the request came from the St. Anne Municipal Corporation. The project document that came to TEF, in fact, spoke about maintenance and rehabilitation of tourism areas, and the document requested funding for a number of areas. In fact, it said Ocho Rios, Sentence Bay, Falmouth, and Discovery Bay. No, not Falmouth. Ocho Rios, Sentence Bay, Brownstone, and Discovery Bay. The request came for $77,269,841.08. The board of the TEF reviewed the request and in fact approved $46,851,105.30 for the town of Ocho Rios only. The $30 million for the other three towns was not approved in that request. And I do apologize that in the document we sent you, it gave the full project description, but the funding support was only provided for Ocho Rios. So the 46,851 was only for a town of Ocho Rios. And I sent you a subsequent document, which unfortunately you would have gotten only this morning. And that document speaks, the scope that it speaks to, it says to conduct sanitization and deep cleaning works for the public spaces in the resort town of Ocho Rios to include Island Village, the Ocho Rios Pier, Main Street, Turtle River Park, Ocean Village, Ocho Rios Town Center, Ocho Rios Market, White River, Fisherman's Beach. So these were the areas covered in this $46 million project.
And they had asked you, and you had agreed the procurement method.
Well, the procurement, the project was submitted by the St. Anne Municipal Corporation, and all of the procurement and implementation would have been their responsibility.
But they indicated it was going to be forced account under emergency conditions.
Given the context of COVID-19 and the urgency to try to sanitize as much as possible. So it was within that context.
All right. Yes, just as a matter of interest, just in general philosophical terms, I understand you got this letter from Ocho Rios, but we had also seen where there was a consideration of Falmouth. Now, I'm just saying, you have Montego Bay, Negril, South Coast. The question is, why would there be a singling out of these, Ocho Rios, Brownstown, etc., Falmouth, but not the other resort areas?
I don't know that they are singling out, Chairman. I suspect it's what came to the board, but I will ask Mr. Johan Rampier, the project director of TEF, who would have reviewed all these projects. He can better respond to whether or not other requests came in and how were they treated.
Hi, Chairman. Good morning. In fact, these were the two at the time of the report that was requested. So TEF didn't
requested by
the municipal corporations, both
by the mayors. The mayors would write.
The municipal corporations.
Not the
municipal
corporation. Right. Got you.
So the municipal corporations have requested, and we reviewed and did our deliberations, and the board approved certain projects. In terms of other projects, because you asked about singling out, we have subsequently received other requests which are now being investigated.
Requests for where?
The St. Catherine Municipal Corporation has requested, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation has requested, and the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation have requested.
The point I think, the point I'm making here is, as a board, TF, there is one thing where persons will write in and ask for and request things, but on the other side of it, you have a responsibility to sort of look at the Industry Tourism Enhancement Fund and look at the areas under your direct supervision. Therefore, it would seem to me that if you were considering cleaning and sanitizing resort areas, you would start by setting a program that would be covering all of those areas or some portion of it, have some rationale. In other words, what we see here is basically requests for for Ocho Rios. We also see that there was a consideration for St. Anne's Bay for 30 million, which seemed to have gone to the board, and there were requests for Falmouth. I'm just saying that what you're saying, there was no consideration of the board of an actual structured program to assist with the cleanup under COVID and sanitization.
I wouldn't speak for the board, but I would think that it would be a function of time. So this would have been done fairly quickly. So Ocho Rios' request came in very early in the day, and then Falmouth. But I wouldn't be able to tell you the...
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just trying to find out if there was a structured program or it was just response to requests.
If I may add, Chairman, your point is valid, but you would have known that we're all restructuring, working our budgets as we speak, and so these came out of the block early. So that's what happened. But TEF is looking comprehensively now at their programs for the rest of the year and to see how best they should direct their spend. So I'm sure the board is considering all options.
All right, so you intend to do more of these?
I don't know what the board plans to do. They're restructuring the budget as we speak.
Member Clark and
Thank you, Mr.
Member
Chairman.
Phillips.
In fairness to TF, I suspect from listening to what is being said and what has been placed in front of us that there were a few persons or a few municipal corporations that were proactive enough, knowing that in all that is being done, we have to sanitize as much as possible as part of the protocols where COVID is concerned, and therefore they would have applied to the powers be that can create the funding. But out of this, Mr. Chairman, I would hope that wise thinking where TF is concerned would be to say that, okay, it is not just Otres or Brownstown that needs to be sanitized, but just about every other town, cities or town centers. And therefore they would come up with a comprehensive plan for the municipal corporation to buy into and to say, okay, let's sit at the table and make it work. But I wouldn't knock them too hard to say that they were just handpicking.
Member Phillips.
I just wanted to know, since the requests were coming, as you said, more requests are coming from municipal councils, and seeing that the Ministry of Local Government the last time that they were here also, so that they were also doing a cleaning program in the town centers right across the island. Was there any consideration of really just partnering with the funds that the Ministry of Local Government has? And before you answer, because I'd like also to ask the PS on the status of that program and if it has been fully executed before municipal councils now go to another funding source to do the same thing again in a short space of time.
Thank you, Member. One of the things that we are considering with the remainder of the projects is actually the level of funding, because it was discussed when the projects were discussed, and we are investigating what is the level of funding from the municipal through the Ministry of Local Government to determine if the projects that we actually have investigating now are need that support based on the requests that they have and the funding that they have from central government, which is the Ministry of Finance, who have done COVID cleanups. So it is something that we are investigating.
So it was a panic where you just write off $46 million and give to one parish council instead of looking at the...
a panic. When any resort area has a need, and COVID-19 was a need that arose very quickly, we responded as such. Truth be told, we look at it now that we have many requests. Requests are coming in. We want to investigate thoroughly and make sure that expenditure is okay. We have responded to the need that Otrius had. People were still coming in at the time. We want to make sure that the place was clean.
Yeah, no, and why I asked the question, because $46 million in the scope of what was facing, as the chairman was saying, resort towns, yeah? And Sentan was quick out of the block, and we commend them for that. But then, seeing that there are also ships coming to Falmouth, you still had, we had not have a full lockdown then. Right? And I guess maybe you can't answer it, but if once the request came, then I would suspect that as the entity you are, TF, would then probably look at the main tourist areas within that corridor and say, okay, $46 million is for Ocherios, but can we afford the 46 and do something with the parish council to see what they're doing? And one of the things that we see happening in this COVID period, there's not a coming together of a central, so we say, all right, how can we now not duplicate resources? So as the question the chairman was asking, was there then a look at the other towns within the where you had tourists visiting, that you look at an effort in doing that? Chairman,
as I said, we are now reviewing our project plans for the year and to see how best to spend the fund that we'll have.
Yeah,
for
but you can't
projects.
call COVID again.
But we are not necessarily trying to do all the towns. As I heard, local government is doing some work. So yes, we need to partner, yet we need to make sure we maximize the spend. But it is not primarily the tourism responsibility, so we wouldn't have had a plan to go and clean all the towns. But we certainly will work with local government and see how best we can assist as we go forward. St. Anne, in fact, came out of the block first. I admit that. But we are looking broadly now at what is possible and reasonable given budget that is available.
Just a question. You had sent us a document before from TF that you give assistance with cleanup, bushing, care of different towns across the island, don't you? A monthly that goes through. Do you know you'd have a breakdown of what the cost of the cleanup for tourists is on a monthly basis?
The one exists, but I don't have it on me.
Okay. You have an idea of what it is in the different areas?
Not off the top of my head, Chairman, sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying.
What
is the question, Member Phillips? You were asking
they
if they
also
have.
said they had a cleaning
do you
program,
have
so I
other
just wanted
cleaning
to
programs
update
on the way, municipal? You had said there was one for Kingston, I think.
And it was asked if it was going to be all parishes, and the answer was yes then.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Just to remind the members that our sanitation exercise, as we had indicated, was geared and it continues to be geared towards the common areas that are mainly utilized by the homelessness population. So that is a target and focused approach. Yes. And we would have indicated at our last appearance that it would have been carried out in the areas that we deem to be hotspots in the KSA and throughout the urban areas island-wide.
So what are the other areas outside of KSA? Was there anything more done? Because by my notes, I remember you saying that you spent major cleaning and sanitation of about 41.5 million.
And that was for what? For the 41.5 was for?
All right, it's major cleaning and sanitation. Those are the infirmaries.
In relation to infirmaries
right.
and holding age homes.
So how much is it that was spent on your general sanitation of those areas? Like
general common areas?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Based on the documentation, it would island-wide sanitization, screening and cleaning for common areas, it would be 25.65.
And that is KSA?
In relation to the hotspots for homelessness.
And is that KSA alone or other?
No,
parishes?
this was island-wide.
26.5.
And that has been completed? That program has been completed?
Yes, that would be completed at this time.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on to the St. Anne Corporation. This project, you had requested the project?
Yes, Chairman.
All right, and it was only Ocherius?
No, it was also Discovery Bay, Brownstone, and St. Anne's Bay.
No, your request was for all of them?
Yes.
But the 46 million?
Was for Ocherius.
Alone?
Yes.
Could you just take us through the procurement?
It was done under the direct emergency contract due to COVID, due to the emergencies, as Ms. Griffiths had mentioned earlier on, being a resort town and the need to mitigate against the safety for the citizens and the populace. We went through direct contracting to ensure that the works were effected immediately.
So how you do that? How do you do it? In other words, how do you locate these people and determine what you're doing?
It was done of the NCC, sir. Page 33. That person is taken from the listing.
So you just I'm really asking you because you. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I don't have a page 33.
Oh.
You have a 33? I have. No, I have 31 and then 36.
Maybe I have a different page. Sorry, Chairman, but it is there.
Oh, maybe that's why I was questioning. I don't have that. Your members, it's Bailey. I don't seem to have a page 33. Member Phillips, you have a page 33? Yeah, but it doesn't say. No, yeah, but I'm just saying, so you have not worked with these contractors before?
We got recommendations from agencies which are supported here based on their performance.
Okay.
So that is how it was selected.
Oh, but we don't, this is in here?
Pardon
This is, we have those in our submission?
No, that document was not submitted. My apologies, but we have it here. That
Okay,
particular
well,
document.
you can give it to us, we don't.
Should I bring it?
Yeah, so, sure.
Okay. Okay.
I'm coming, yes, I know. The reason we're just trying to go through the sequence, because
Understood.
let us be clear so that everyone far and wide can understand the rationale of what's happening. We have a normal procurement process in Jamaica. However, we are in a period now where there's a national emergency. So we understand that there are times that things have to be done more quickly than others, and that you have to move in methodologies that you would normally move in. But as we all know, in those times, not everyone may do things in the correct manner, even with that. And therefore, our committee, our job is to really provide oversight. So in a case where we have an expenditure of 46 million for the cleaning of a town, we need to at least determine how the process was taken so that at least we can be comfortable that all the necessary checks and balances were put in place. All right, so Member Daly, you had a query. Sorry. And Member Campbell.
I think part of my question was really answered in regards to the amount allotted and the overlapping in terms of local government and TEF. But I just want to find out, there was enough time, in my view, that there could be some kind of consultation with local government and TF so that, we don't continue doing the same thing in the same space. I personally believe that it is lack of consultation and communication why all of these agencies get the monies, and when you realize everybody giving out care packages and you're going back to the same people giving out care packages all because we are not consulting. And I personally believe probably we would have avoided some of these conversations here today if we were really sitting down and even using the phone, since we cannot get meetings together, to consult and to see exactly how we can spend the Jamaican dollar, the people's money, in a better way.
Okay. Yes, Member Campbell.
Mr. Morris, morning.
Good morning, sir.
You say you picked the name of the contractor from the list, NCC list?
Yes, sir.
And is that the only name you picked?
That was the only one, based on the emergency.
No, would you answer the
Yes,
question
sir.
in the line which I asked them?
Only.
So you picked one name.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the emergency provisions require you, notwithstanding it being an emergency, to take several names?
Yes.
Yeah. Why did you not follow the regime as prescribed in the rules?
All right, understood. As I said before, due to the fact that it was an emergency.
Mr. Morris, yes. I don't want that kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm asking you. You know the rules, and notwithstanding the fact that we have an emergency, there is a provision which you must follow in order to arrive at the determination, right, at the end of that process.
Okay.
You are given estimates of expenditure for $46 million.
Yes, sir.
And you should get at least 5 contractors who are within the band, who provide that particular kind of service. And you can then decide, based on all references and everything, to select one. Is that what you did?
Well, no, but it was forwarded to the Procurement Committee for recommendation. So it was not followed, but we still submitted that name to the Procurement Committee for recommendation.
No, Madam Daly, I'm not over with this.
Okay.
When you made the reference to the committee, did you say to the committee that you followed the rules as prescribed in?
Am I allowed to ask the officer just to clarify?
No,
Chairman?
You are the manager for the.
Yes, I am, but there are steps, and that is why through the chair
Yes,
I brought my resource.
let
There are
him
many
seek
steps.
clarification,
Yes,
member.
there are a lot of steps, so
Yeah.
the resource persons are here just to answer, because I don't want to answer.
Absolutely. Seek clarification, for sure.
So my deputy chief engineer will answer.
You okay, Pierre?
But I just want to come in. I want to come in a
Yes.
little here.
I know you're coughing.
I want to come in a little here. I don't know if I'm right, but it is my understanding that
Jared?
Under the emergency procurement guideline, you can do sole sourcing. Yes. So he has done nothing wrong. He can do sole sourcing under the emergency guideline. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, based upon my understanding.
All right, Member Campbell, you have the floor.
Yes.
Get it right, and I'm prepared to back down where I am wrong, and I want you to lead me. Yes, sole source. You at no point in the history of doing business in St. Anne had to deal with this company.
No, sir.
All right, so you had no personal knowledge of what this company was capable of doing.
No, through the chair. That's why we submitted the letter that the chairman has.
This letter from the
Yes, sir. So that's why that was submitted. to verify their competency.
All right, Member Campbell, can I assist you here? Just for clarity, you have indicated here that you got a recommendation for this company there's a letter here from the NEMP, that's a Northeast, repeat? What is it? NEMP is?
NEMPM.
Right, NEPM, right? I'm trying to figure out what the acronym means. Northeast Parks and Market?
It is now National Solid Waste, but...
Oh, this is it?
Yes.
Oh, so we have a letter here from NEPM, Waste Management, signed by the Regional Operations Manager, who is Tracy Fakuri. But the question I would ask, so, this agreement in front of us was signed when? On the 26th day of March 2020? With Raheem's and the St. Anne's Municipal Council?
Yes, sir.
But this letter of recommendation is dated May the 20th, 2 months later. The letter you just gave.
Okay.
So you'd have gotten the recommendation after the work was completed.
Okay, based on how the process goes, there are times through the chair that you have verbal communication with persons, and then the letters would come. So there are some aspects that would not be recorded on paper, but they are through telephone conversations, and then... When is that?
Yeah,
I'm going to ask my deputy to answer.
Yeah, when is it that you sought the recommendation?
Prior to the company being submitted to the procurement committee, we sought information and background references. Right, that's when it was presented to the procurement committee for them to do the procurement and further approval.
So, let me ask one question.
All right, hold on. Let me 1 second, member. Let me just try and I have Member Campbell. You want to defer for a while, or you were in? Pardon? Okay. I have Member Phillips. Member Daly. Member Daly.
Yes. Just to find out, in terms of local government, do you have a list of contractors on your list at the council that you would be able to look at, examine to see what is there?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes.
And you have never used that list, none at all? Because normally you would have looked at that list first because they are registered with the council, and to see whether or not they are capable in carrying out the duties that you want to be done.
As I mentioned to the chair, the NCC was a vital part.
Yes, and that is what you take into consideration when you do sole sourcing. First thing you do is to seek to find out if this person is NCC qualified. And once the person is NCC qualified and his certificate is up to date, then you can go ahead and engage him under sole sourcing. So that's important. Yeah, what we should.
It's important, but what I am asking if you looked at your list, because it would have been somebody out of.
Here is
Chairman.
The company that has
member,
done the work
member, wait 1
NCC
second.
qualified.
Member, please, I recognize. I'll come to you after.
Chairman, what I'm really trying to establish is whether or not this person was part of the list that was registered through the council.
All right, let me clarify.
I want to hear from him.
Yes, through the chair, let me clarify. All right, this matter is the first that it is happening, COVID. So we would not have had that particular list. That's why we had to go to the NCC list. So my correction on that. It have gone to the NCC listing because we did not have the initial list of individuals, as it was the first we are dealing with this nature case in terms of COVID.
Yeah, but
so that's the reason.
All right. No, there's a. Let me just say this to you. Why? I didn't have these documents. You have just passed this document to me, and I don't think my colleagues would have received these documents because you just passed it to us. And it really kind of makes even more questions than it gives answers. The first thing is, did you find out the date? What? Let me say why I'm a little concerned about this. First of all, you have an agreement here with Raheem's and the St. Anne's Municipal Corporation. The agreement is dated the 26th day of March 2020. You have indicated to us that you did it based on recommendations that you received. You have passed a letter to me, which was written by Tracy Fukuri, the Regional Operations Manager, MEPM, and as I was saying, I'm not, that's what we're trying to find out, which is a part of Parks and Markets or Solid Waste or something like that. But I don't know why they'd be using this letterhead, because this would be a redundant letterhead. Am I correct? This
You'd be correct. Mm-hmm.
It's a redundant letterhead. This letter is dated May the 20th, 2020. We had recommended, we had asked for information on this, all the emergency procedures, which was sent to the ministry and to your office on the 18th of April, which would be prior to this letter being written. And even the letter itself is at best confusing. It says, this serves to verify that NEPM Waste Management Limited has been engaged in the services of Raheem in excess of 1 year to provide services of supply, labor, tools, equipment, management, supervision for special desilting, debushing projects. Desilting and debushing. Supply haulage of cover materials on disposal sites at Doctors Wood and Haddon to facilitate operational projects such as landfill covering and to supply all required resources to facilitate shoreline cleansing projects. Raheem's Cleaning and Trucking has won bids, major bids, or been selected to provide services / equipment on major projects such as desilting and debushing in St. Mary, cover material haulage, and shoreline solid waste mitigation. At no stage in this letter do they speak of sanitization or any other issue of that nature. So the question I would ask is that you have received this letter after the date. You say you may have gotten some verbal, but at best this is very untidy. And I'm not certain how you arrived at this position. Well, Pierce has both yourself. Yes, go right ahead, Pierce.
Just one point, Mr. Chairman, and for the members of the committee, that the NEMPM is one of 4 regions that are established by virtue of their being companies. So they would use their independent letterhead. So there's NEMPM, MPM, WPM, and SPM.
No, I say, are they still active?
Yes, sir, because they are established as companies.
No, I'm well,
right.
good. No, I'm
so
not.
they are
I'm saying
regional
that really
authorities
because
that
I
are
don't
established,
know.
sir. So that's the clarification
All right,
I
so
wanted to
so
bring.
hold on. So you say there's a WPM. So where is that? No, because I'm in, you and I are in West, but I really have not. No, I know it used to exist, but I thought it had changed over to.
Get the specific locations for you.
No,
sir.
absolutely.
Right.
No, and I don't think that is a. I think just for clarity, I think it's important. But excellent. Well, that's good to know. I wouldn't even go into that. All right. Yes, sir. Could you introduce yourself again? I think you wanted to.
Oh, sorry, Xavier Monroe, Deputy Superintendent, Deputy CEO, Chief Engineering Officer. In reference to the letter, or not the letter, but in the reference to the process, right, I just want to reiterate, because I noticed that we might be going off on a tangent.
Pardon? Repeat that.
I noticed that we might be going off on a tangent.
Okay.
The procurement process was guided by what is in the handbook, which states to the direct contracting of a contractor under emergency circumstances. Now, when the situation of COVID happened, we didn't have a lot of time. We went directly to the NCC and we checked under sanitation. No, this is a contractor that has NCC in sanitation. Regardless if they are doing work for another company in another category, this contractor has the NCC qualification in sanitation.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make that clear.
Okay. Member Dalrymple.
Thank you, Chairman. I came in late. But,
Meaning to the House or to the conversation?
To the House and to the conversation. But the whole situation with COVID-19 is novel and new to everyone. From what I'm gathering, there could have been, in handling the matter, some procedural gaps that were not followed as strictly. My concern, however, and I think it is a concern of this committee, is to examine what work was done and did you get value for money. Because really and truly, it is very easy in the whole situation with this pandemic to look at procedures and to find faults. And probably there are little gaps because people are reacting in a novel situation. So what I would like to find out as a committee member is not whether they had a conversation and the letter came and the date, because all sorts of things happen in organizations, is what work was done and was there value for money? Because if there is value for money, then we are okay. I don't really want to focus on finding a problem in a situation where we have been dealing with all sorts of novel conditions and people in all our organizations were reacting to try to help the situation and not have the spread of a virus. So that is where really my focus is, because what is happening this morning is that there are people under pressure to explain why the contract was given when the letter was late and this. In COVID and in every situation, no. People are reacting to help and then sometimes catching up on what ought to be the regular procedure. So I would be very grateful if I could hear what work was done and whether or not we got value for the money.
All right, so I think that's an excellent segue, Member Dalrymple. Now, let me just say, and I think it's important for us to look through this, because I will just say to you that I'm not a technical person, but we are in a time now where the entire country is under pressure, under stress. We know the economic challenges. I saw the Minister of Finance under a lot of pressure, and he's indicating that funds are limited, and therefore we have to ensure what we are doing is we're getting value for money. And I think it's important for us, because I will tell you, I need some clarification on these figures, because to me they look really quite inflated. The numbers I'm seeing here for this amount of work. So I think...
I agree with you, Chairman, of looking, but what I'm saying, what we are doing is quizzing somebody about when they got the approval, when they let out. Let us look at the work that was done and the value, because that's where it's at. Chairman,
you had made the point, and I said it was a good point to segue. So we're moving on to the project, unless you would like to discuss it.
No, I don't want to. I just want to know, did they do the work, and was the money commensurate with what was done?
So we're moving now to the actual project. There were Mr. Morris. So I see here that work was done at Island Village.
Yes, sir.
Island Village is
it's
private or public? That's all.
It's UDC, sir.
What? UDC.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The Ocherius Pier, the main street in Ocherius.
Yes, sir.
Turtle River Park.
Yes, sir.
Ocean Village, the Ocherius Market. Some work was done at White River. Well, these are right. Fisherman Village and Island Village. Island Village is which one? You have Island Village twice. So maybe there's a mistake. You have Island Village twice. You have Island Village and you have Island Village. Look at number 1 and number 9.
All right, one is for walkway and seating, and the other is for. It's so small I can't hear. But it's two different. It's two different locations, sir. And we also submitted a map to show the two different proposals.
Yes, but I'm just asking. You have Island Village. One is walkways and seating, and the other one is Island Village. Some other.
If I may, can I just, for more clarity, just ask my chief engineer, deputy to answer?
Absolutely.
For clarification, on the map we highlighted and labeled the areas. One is labeled OV1 and the other one is labeled W4. Yes. On the map in the proposal.
One is, but we can speak about it. One is Island Village, walkways and seating.
Yes.
And the other one is what?
In the location of OV map as identified on the map that was submitted.
Yeah, but could you just tell us what it is? What is the second Island Village?
No, it's the same Island Village, but it's two different areas on the map where we highlighted.
So you're saying you divided Island Village in two?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just saying, and what was done? You would have cleaned up and sprayed some sanitizer?
Extensively, yes.
Okay. The cost of doing the walkways, cleaning and spraying the walkways for Island Village, the walkways and seating was $1.5 million. To clean, no construction or anything, just the cleaning and sanitizing of Island Village Part 1 was 1.5 million. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Island Village 2, the same Island Village, but another part of it, which is, let me just read them. You have here, furnish all labor, small tools, approved chemical agents, etc. For rails, gates, doors, gate handles, door handles, rail guards, seating at the location. Then underneath you have same provide labor, small tools, chemical agents to clean and sanitize handrails, gates, doors, gate handles, same. It's the same thing, but probably different parts.
Location, yes.
So what you have here is all of them is just to clean the rails, gates, doors, gate handles, door handles, rail guard, seating. They're all of them are the same procedure. For for a portion of Island Village was 1.5, and for the other portion was approximately 6 million. So you spent $7.5 million cleaning the handrails, gates, doors, etc. of Island Village.
The description may say handrails, but there's
But
it's far more. It's far more because
well, tell us because I think we're all interested.
Utilizing, we have some pictures.
Yeah, but we've seen the pictures, but maybe you can tell us.
You have not. Sorry, the picture. There was only a portion of the pictures that was first submitted along with the documents because it's a lot of pictures.
But detail to us. Give us an idea.
The use of the chemicals, when they spray in the chemicals, the distribution of the chemicals in order to adequately receive it on the surface. The application, as we calculated based on the rate, the gallons per square foot, we did in order to reach the amount on the estimate, we did a calculation what is the cost of the chemical, the amount of chemical that is to be applied per square meter, and then we know the area of the area of that particular location. So that's how we arrived at the costing to do the particular estimate. Now, the pictures will show that once the railings, spraying the railings included everything around the area. Walls, surface walls, doors, handles, walkways, everything. Because at the time of COVID was, the information that was received by us is that it is something that can be left on any surface, basically. Right? So we could not just clean handrails and leave another surface. And we did the entire area of the location extensively. That area is highlighted in the estimate, and our calculations for what the cost of the chemical and the labor breakdown, we did as prior to the...
I hear you. I hear an explanation, but I'm just saying to you, when they present you to spray and sanitize Island Village, because we're just starting the first one, and they tell you 7.5 million, and we're not building and doing nothing. It never rang any bells in your mind that you would suggest that maybe this is something that could take a second look?
No one told us, sir. We found out what the cost of the chemical was, the amount of chemical that needed to be applied to a square meter, and based on the area, we did our own calculations. So we had an idea of what it would cost for the material, the chemicals, equipment use, and the labor factor.
Yes.
Yes. You did a bill of quantity and submit to
yes
TEF before.
Yes.
Right. So that would guide you in terms of what you would expect in the actual work being done.
Yes.
Is there any anomaly between what was presented as a bill of quantity and the rates that would have been paid for the actual work done?
No. And I might add, or I'm almost certain.
That's an interesting tack to take, Mr. Witter. But you know, Mr. Witter, and I'm just saying, no, it is. Let me just say this. Yes. No. Could you identify yourself for the hand side?
Xavier Monroe.
Xavier Monroe.
X-A-V-E-R.
Yeah, but let us move on. Let's move on. We then have the Ocherios pair. Again, it says furnish labor, small tools, and approved chemical agent to clean and sanitize. It says it's handrails. I think it's an error. Gates, doors, gate handles, door handles, rail guards, seating, etc. at location. At the end of it, for Ocherios pair, if I add this up, 4 and 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, this is close to 10 million, am I correct? Them members help me with this. 5, 1 million, 2, 4, 8, 9 million. Just over 9 million. So to just clean and sanitize the pier was $9 million, and it didn't ring a bell?
Sir, the cost of the material and the cost of application is just what it is. We did a check of...
Yes, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that we have to bear in mind is the procurement of the material. It's not just the labor, and I suspect that I'm hearing it in your voice, that is really labor that you're concentrating on. But look at the cost for the material, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I did a smaller version of sanitizing taxes in Montego Bay. And if I give you the bill, you would be surprised to know that.
You might have to bring up here in front of us.
Yes, you might very well have to. But sir, pay close attention to the material, the cost of the material to do. And you can water it down, Mr. Chairman. Is that something that you're at home and you're using the household bleach and you throw a little water upon if you stretch it?
And so when you add it up, the Ocherios Main Street, $2 million, the Turtle River Park, $2 million. Which one is Ocean Village? Where's Ocean Village? Yes.
It's in the middle. It's between Island Village and going up to where you normally had Woolworth, in between that area.
So it's,
yes.
All right. So Ocean Village was 1.1 million. The Ocherios Market, sanitizing of the market was $10 million. I'm just giving you the figures here. There's something, you know, I want to say to you that at this point, we see that you sanitize the town, and $46 million. Now, many of the other towns did not have that process done. You know, I don't know that they're fared any worse to Ocherios at this point. But there's something I don't understand now. In doing this, you have a section called preliminaries. What exactly is that?
The preliminary items on the second page of the estimate.
Pardon?
You speak reference to the second page of the estimate where it speaks to preliminaries, securities for work, site supervision, monitoring, mobilization of equipment, and safety gear.
Could you go through it? Hold on. Could you go through that slowly for me? The preliminaries.
All right.
What are those? Yeah, go through your list.
Security.
What?
Security for works.
Security for the works.
Yes.
That was $500,000.
The whole process of COVID, not knowing what to expect, we had to put to identify one, the storage of the chemicals, because they are carrying valuable chemicals on site and whatever. So they have to have a provision for the storage of the chemical while the works were ongoing. Right? Site supervision and monitoring, same thing.
How much was the site supervision? I'm having difficulty. I can't. What page are we on?
The second page of the estimate.
Of the estimate. Yes. All right. Site supervision. What's next?
Site supervision and monitoring. The site itself would be all the location in OGS at this time, and for the company to come and utilize mobilization from somewhere else, keep in mind this estimate was done prior to anybody being awarded, right? So it's for the company to come and set up all equipment and staff and anything else needed to execute same works.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I forgot your name, Mr.
Monroe, sir.
Monroe. I apologize, Mr. Monroe. Mr. Monroe, what you're reading from is a letter from, well, what I'm looking at is a letter from Mr. Morris to TF, which speaks of the preliminaries.
Yes.
Am I looking at the right thing?
The letter from Mr. Morris is based off of the estimate sent for the request of the funding.
Yes. I'm just having some difficulty. Could you go through, just quickly, carry us through? You said the preliminaries are what? I'm having...
All of the preliminaries, in a summary, would include securing their chemicals because they're bringing all of that, and it's not bleach.
Security of what?
Just for the reference. Sorry. Securing of the chemicals, the aerosol, the chemicals that they use, because it's something that is safe to be inhaled, because it's something that was done during the day while the public was up and about, right? So it's something that was, you can inhale, whatever. Right? So,
Mr. Monroe,
yes, sir.
What's the name of the chemical that was used in the process?
Hold on a minute. It was a D-dram sodium chlorine quaternitride QUATERNARY sanitizer.
Fine.
Gentlemen, members, what sort of hostility is this I'm sensing in my committee?
Well, Mr. Monroe, when
yes,
when they tendered the estimates, or let me ask you, you prepared an estimate, and the chemical which you recommended for use was the one you just mentioned.
Yes, and it was based off of part of me sitting in all of the other meetings where the Board of Health had made recommendations.
That may very well be so. How much was it per liter for that particular chemical?
We have a breakdown here of the calculations that can be submitted, sir.
Huh?
We have a breakdown.
Can you just look at the document and tell me how much per liter it is?
All right. 5 gallon, for a 5 gallon, 2,880.
Sure. Could you, and how many gallons overall you estimate would have been used on the entire project?
Well, this is just showing for each location, so I can tell you for each location, you'd have to add them up.
All right, and when you issued your instructions for the work to be done, you said to them, use this quantity in the designated area?
Yes, it's part of the scope of works.
I'm sorry?
That's a part of the scope of works.
No, I'm yes, I know what the scope of works, right?
Yes, sir.
And when they put together the entire package and handed it to you, the numbers came out to exactly that which you had on your page? So you did your estimates in-house. You did not at any point hand those estimates to the contractor, but the contractor, he didn't see your estimates at any time.
It is when the contractor came in, is after, sorry, I should say, after the contractor signs the contract and the work is awarded to him, that is when, right?
And what figure, yes, he gave
the contract was signed for 46 46,851.
And how much did he tender as the amount which he would charge for doing the work, the scope of works which you had outlined to him?
As what was previously said, it was done under emergency.
Yes,
direct
Mr.
contracting.
Monroe,
Yes,
I
sir.
accept all of that. I am not dumb today. I'm saying you gave him the scope of works.
No, sir. It was done
So
on the direct.
on what basis then did he charge you for the works that he was going to do?
During the direct contracting process, right, after the contractor fulfilled the necessary NCC and all of the other requirements and review the contract, if he is willing to accept the terms of the contract and engage the work, once after he signs it.
All right, so I take it then that you were the one who inserted a figure into the contract and say, well, you know, Mr. Jahim or whoever it is you are going to do these works for this figure. Is that how it proceeded?
The description of how you put it, I wouldn't put it like that. But
well, can you give me can you give me a better description?
I'm not going to disagree with you.
I'm sorry?
I'm not going to disagree with you because at the end of the day, on the direct contracting, the contractor would agree to do it at the rate at which is prescribed on the contract.
I'm not saying all I want to do is to establish exactly what happened. So you had your internal estimates, yes, at $46 million. And you pulled together, you attached the scope of works with him and said, you, Jaim, you're going to do these works for $46 million. And that's what happened, right? Huh? I didn't hear the answer.
I wouldn't put it like that, but I will not disagree with you.
Mr. Jackson.
Cost of sanitizing Orcharias and other such areas struck me. $46 million in all the areas you see there. When the COVID situation was discovered and revealed about Portmore, where we had the Alarica call center and the big spike emanating from, the municipality of Portmore undertook a sanitization exercise in all the major gathering areas in Portmore. Naggohead Transport Center, Waterford Transport Center, Greater Portmore Health Center and Library, all the bus shelters, all of Portmore Mall. You know what the cost of that exercise was?
No, enlighten us.
$300,000.
They didn't use Raheem's.
$300,000.
Mr. Chairman, that is not fair because first and foremost.
So let me finish. Let me finish.
No, but Mr. Chairman,
let me finish.
Mr. Chairman,
I will
the
not
member is bringing something to force. We don't have no documentation to even believe what is there. So
I think he's only trying to say it for some reference. Member Clark.
Calm down.
But Mr. Chairman, the chemical that was used there.
I seem to remember you speaking earlier and saying that you had an opposite point of view. So I'm making the point. In the same way I allowed you to issue your position. Please allow Mr.
So for him to tell
Jackson.
me that him do all of that for $300,000, it seems as if I only water him put in a spray pan.
Well, that would be your... let Mr. Jackson continue.
Knowing my colleague, I don't think it is far from that.
Oh, no, Mr. Clark. Again, I tell you, you have come today. But...
He has come. I'll complete.
Turn a blind eye to your colleague and proceed.
My good friend from Montego, he has come here to make mischief today, but that is part of his character. So I won't allow him to distract me.
Yes, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, all of us, entire Jamaica, was concerned and is concerned about the coronavirus and the vulnerability of our people to being infected and the need to take precautionary steps to reduce, minimize as much as possible the likelihood of infection. And all of these things would have been done and been done with some sense of urgency. So emergency procurement of services and goods will take place, but all within reason. I was only sharing with the committee an experience that I'm aware of. Right? And I said the municipality, the Portmore municipality, I have the permanent secretary from local government. She can summon those documentation to substantiate any claim that I'm making. I checked with the director of finance. I checked with the director of finance at the Portmore municipality to find that out. How much did you spend for that sanitation exercise that was done in Portmore? That was the number I was given. And I asked for the areas that was sanitized. And the areas are Portmore Mall, the areas are Portmore Health Center and the library area, the Waterford Transport Center, the Naggerhead Transport Center, all the bus shelters throughout Portmore were sanitized.
Mr. Chairman, now we understand why the numbers were that high in St. Catherine.
All right. So let me. I think this is, quite frankly, it may actually be out of our scope. I just want to go back to another point. I'd asked you about these preliminaries for a specific reason. You got a company that is supposed to be sanitation, etc. I notice here that you have mobilization and equipment rental. What equipment were you renting?
At the time of the estimate being prepared, we did not know what to expect, so we have to
turn up. Sorry. Go ahead.
Two responses. First of all, at the time of the estimate being prepared, the wording, as is, we have to put facilitate for anything, any unforeseen equipment renting or a specialty equipment that.
Are you saying you didn't pay this out?
The answer to this is in two parts. The wording, I'm explaining that now, why the wording is such, because at the time we did not know what we would encounter, so we have to factor in the wording to encompass any unforeseen mobilization equipment with that special needs support. Once the work was being executed, we did realize that the company itself provided special equipment. It wasn't a matter of somebody walking around. There were trucks that came in and sprayed the streets. So we have pictures of the trucks, pictures of the equipment, all of that.
And the safety gear?
Yes. What you call it? The whole.
Yes, but you have here
and
a
then
cost.
They issued out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, within this, you're paying out $2.2 million to purchase surface gear to do this work. And that equipment rental, the trucks, etc., is $1.75 million. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, these figures really seem inflated beyond anything that, at the end of the day, when we go through all of this, it seems to be quite. Members, let me just say this. I certainly, from my point of view, this is beyond my scope. This, as far as I'm concerned, this needs to be looked at by some agency that is more equipped to understand these figures than we are. And I'm suggesting that we ask some other agency, department,
Mr. Chairman,
Auditor General may not, but I think maybe this is an area for the Contractor General to come in and take a look. Yes, please.
Just for clarification also, having recognized that there was an issue with this said matter has been referred to our own Chief Internal Auditor Department and for investigation.
Yes, I understand that. I personally, though, just looking on it, I mean, and I know nothing about this. I'm here with no preconceived notions, but I do believe that an independent audit of this by the Contractor General would be useful.
Mr. Chairman, I want to support that because what we have learned, especially those of us who have the fortune of serving on the PAC2, we don't just want compliance audit in this case. We want performance audit. And I say that, Mr. Chairman, because what is important is that public funds are used in the most efficient way. It might very well be the case that these expenditures were made, but were never the most efficient way to spend those money. In other words, what you use to clean or to sanitize is not what you need. You could have otherwise used to get an efficient professional job done. And a performance type audit will give you that result than merely a compliance audit.
Just a question. In this instance, who bought the chemical?
The contract was based on the company to supply both labor, material, and everything on the contract.
So they bought the chemical. But just looking back on your estimates and looking back on the invoice of the contractor, number 11 on the contractor's invoice, additional works. Yeah? Drop-in center, Ocheres police station, Rubis gas station, which in light is basically the same figure that you have for your contingencies. So there is no measurement of the work being done there, or it's just because as member Campbell, and I guess when you run your own business, there are certain things that you look for than what you don't look for. And I would say that be it that government regulations, basically guidelines on emergency procurement, you still want to protect the resources that you have. And my experience is that when you go to a municipal council compared to even some contractors, your estimate is generally higher than contractors out there. Be it that it may, when you look at, in your answer, that after the contractor knew of the figures, or you gave him the total amount of what it is that the municipal council was willing to spend, he was able to see, to work with your measurements and whatever it is you have, because this is coming like you just cut and paste what you had on your estimate onto his invoice. Huh? What I would have expected with that amount being spent, that giving you have the quantities, the measurements here, at least to see if he could come in within or even below. But probably it's not municipal council money, it's another agency money. And we know how it goes. There a man said, boy, government money, so it's like free money. Right? At what point, if any, did the municipal council to see if they could, if the contractor could come in at less than what your own estimates were?
I can't speak of it as we did the cleaning to try and save money. We did this cleaning to try and save lives. So
yeah, but you
the
had
areas that we included, right, were in addition to the areas. It were areas that
so,
we.
all right. Have you done Brownstone? Have you cleaned St. Anne's Bay? Have you cleaned the other
We have
areas?
made efforts to try, but.
Exactly, that's the point I'm making. So you haven't done it. So you want to save life. So everybody in a Brownstone or everybody in a St. Anne's Bay for dead off. So don't tell me that it's like it's a priority. I'm just saying to you, If that is the case, you're getting 40 odd millions. You could have tried to see if you could have stretched and get something of brownstone, see if you could have varied it. That's the point I'm making. But you just cut and paste one. And my final question, did the contractor subcontract out any of this work?
Parish.
Yes or no?
From my point of view, we don't deal with subcontractors, we deal with contractors.
No, may I ask if the contractor, from your knowledge, did the contractor subcontract out some of this work?
No, I can't speak on that, sir. I deal with just the contractor.
Okay, thanks.
All right, members, I don't necessarily, I think, given the direction, I don't think we should really proceed much further. Let's await a report. So, on that note,
Why you want to override, Chairman? Why you come here to trouble me today?
you know, Member Clark, I'm going to have to move Mr. Jackson back down to the front row to sit beside you because.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, notwithstanding my friend's objection, you recall at the last meeting I had made mention about this plug-in facility that I gather was installed at the St. Anne Parish Council. Can you, Mr. CEO, speak to that?
Yes, through Chairman, to you and to the rest of panel. Regarding that matter, subsequently it has been taken down. All costs that were associated with the installation will be recovered, and subsequently a request has been made for a meter to be attached, and the cost would be incurred by our chairman.
Mr. CEO, that's most interesting.
Yes, sir.
Subsequent to, it has been removed. What was the basis of it being there in the first instance?
That question is hard to answer. Can you rephrase the question? That's a very tricky question. You said the basis.
No, my questions are not tricky questions.
It is, sir. Through the chair, it is very tricky.
They're very straightforward.
No, this one is not, sir.
This is a plug-in facility cost, from the information I have, over $100,000.
No, it's, I think, a little over 80,000.
80,000?
It's not 100.
Through
the chair.
Just under 100,000.
Yes, sir.
And you incurred a monthly light bill of approximately what?
No, the news said that the light went up 30%. That's not so. During that time, we had staff that we were closing at 3, so there's no way. And even when the chief internal auditor came, we looked at the bills, and there was no indication of a cost going up because we're closing at 3, so they could not justify whether.
Okay, fair enough. But go back to the installation of it. When you're going to spend public funds, there must be some basis of added value to the services being provided to the public or the staff at your council. What informed this installation? You don't just willy-nilly just call in and have this or that installed. What informed it?
Well, based on the media as you have known and matters presented here, it would have been our chairman's vehicle, so install it for it to be charged to a limit. So that was the genesis of
the chairman had a vehicle that needed to be charged.
Yes.
His personal vehicle or the municipality?
It is his personal vehicle, sir.
His personal vehicle?
Yes.
And the municipality went ahead and expended his funds?
Yes, but as I mentioned before, this is also a new situation. When the chief internal auditor came in and we had a meeting, we did not find any regulations to say that it was just based on maybe ethics. So we did not find a regulation to say it could not be done. But in order to address it, we corrected it.
So you have taken it out?
Yes, it's no longer there. So we are awaiting a recommendation based on the request. So
Mr. Morris, you have any such installations made otherwise of this nature?
No, sir.
Okay. And you don't intend to have any more? No, but we need that under your watch?
No, sir.
Okay.
We solicited the requisite approval before.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, I was struck by the CEO's response that when it came to light, and I wonder what else is is yet to come to light.
All right. So, on that note, Mr. Jackson, if you're finished, members, I will instruct the secretary to take the necessary steps. And on that note, I would thank the Ministry of Tourism. Always good to see you. And the Ministry of Local Government, and of course the St. Anne's Municipal Council. So thank you all for being here today. Members, as I said earlier, next week it is proposed that we will have the supplementary. I'll have the clerk issue the necessary notices, and we'll take it from there.
Chairman, you said next week for the supplementary?
Oh, you came late.
All the
Yes.
time. You have to see with it.
No, I'm
Mr. Member Clark, I noticed that today you have no patience for Mr. Jackson.
I think he came here with all guns loaded for me today, Mr. Chairman. But I'm happy for your protection.
I'm trying, and you know, I'm often accused of not protecting you.
I am delighted on this occasion, Mr. Chairman. But I just raised the question of the supplementary next week. As you said, I was a bit late, attended to matters of constituents and national
The minister informed me yesterday that he had spoken to the leader of government business and the clerk, and he was requesting that the committee meet on Tuesday. The Parliament would not meet to give us time to do our deliberations, and we would do the report on Tuesday afternoon, and that this House would meet on Wednesday, and we would submit the report.
My antenna went up, Mr. Chairman, because I recall clearly that the said Minister of Finance was not prepared to extend the debate on the matter in the House by a further week because of the urgency, and he couldn't tolerate any further delay, but yet he's delaying for 2 weeks later. Yes, life is interesting. Life is interesting.
Yes, all right. With that, members, yes, member.
Mr. Chairman, I made a request at the last sitting, but in light of what we're...
You made a request
for us to have the Hanover Parish Council.
Member Clark, we had invited, at the last meeting, we had invited the ministry and to be able to get the opportunity for any discussions that we want. Now, if you have a specific interest or something to be, if there's a point, in other words, what we're doing today is we're looking at the emergency expenditure of COVID. Next week, we're going to have supplementary. If you have some issue or other that you would like to raise.
The issue I'm having, Mr. Chairman, is that social media is just raw and on point.
Yes,
and I have been seeing a lot of things as it relates to the Hanover Parish Council and the Manchester Parish Council, and therefore, Mr. Chairman, for clarity, for John public to know exactly that we at Parliament are really on top of things and looking through to make sure that everything is transparent and above board, that we need to have them before us to answer question in regards to what we are now hearing on the road.
As we have done today. Now, Member Clark, and you know how the committee operates. As we did, when was it we had invited you here, PS? It was 2 weeks ago? Or it was a week before? You were here the week before the supplementary budget. And as we know, whenever we have the ministries, we are encouraged to indicate what it is you want to discuss. And I'll just say to you, in that case, there are what we ask for are reports on specific issues. So if you have such, please refer to me, and we can have that discussion anytime, Member Clark.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll definitely put it in writing.
Yes, absolutely, and certainly, and indicate what it is that you would like to have a discussion.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. On that pleasant note from both my members, thank you, and To all our guests, thank you. Meeting now adjourned.
Jamaica's forests, mysterious, majestic, wondrous, life force of nature. A unique habitat for biologically diverse species of flora and fauna found nowhere else in the world. The lungs and breath of the earth, trees in the forest absorb carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen essential to life, cooling down the planet. Forests collect and filter rainwater, releasing it to flow through the veins of the earth. Covering almost 40% of the island, Jamaica's forests form a tapestry of exquisite beauty, from untouched, pristine broadleaf trees in the heart of the island to waterlogged mangroves in brackish waters along the coast. The forest is the bush of life. Many products come from it that are vital to our survival. It's the source of livelihood for many people. When we destroy the forest, it degrades our watersheds, releases harmful carbon into the air, and leaves us vulnerable to extreme weather conditions. Forests act as a buffer, protecting us from natural disasters, reducing soil erosion, filtering and purifying our water.
My connection to the forest is deeply rooted.
The forest means everything. It means life. It means existence.
Forests in Jamaica breathe life into an interconnected community of plants, animals, and other organisms. Covering 40% of the island, they form the backbone of the country. From the mountaintop to our shoreline, different types can be identified, including primary forests, untouched in their original state. The most biologically diverse ecosystems on Earth. There are also other broadleaf forests that have been affected by human interaction. Tall and short, open dry forests. Swamps and mangroves growing in a combination of fresh and salt water. All these forests nurture a wealth of endemic flora and fauna.
Our forests are really unique and special. You have the medicinal plants. We have a number of ferns. We have trees in our forest that exist nowhere else.
The Blue Mountains Forest Reserve is Jamaica's largest continuous block of natural closed broadleaf forest and the most significant source of water for the eastern end of the island.
We have so many species of endemic birds, the swallowtail butterfly, the Jamaican toad, and our beautiful water, as you can see around me.
The Cockpit Country is one of the largest remaining areas of wet limestone forest in Jamaica, with just over half covered by closed broadleaf forest. It supports the highest number of globally threatened species in the Caribbean and is the source of 40% of Jamaica's water.
Cockpit Country never dry. Can guarantee that. The tree is important to us as we important to the trees. The fresh air when I breathe at night, I don't have to use for an AC.
I love the trees. It gives you good health, you know? It's because of the air here, why I'm still here.
Forests are vital for life on Earth. Mangroves are tropical and subtropical trees and plants that live primarily in coastal environments. Mangroves can be found in every parish. They thrive mostly in the brackish wetlands on the south coast as well as on the north coast. Jamaican mangrove forests are a biologically diverse and productive ecosystem.
They're very important to us as human beings who happen to live near mangroves.
The mangrove is like a wall. We call it a buffer that keeps back the strong force of wind that comes with an hurricane, and it also keeps back the high tide from entering into the community.
Mangroves control erosion, improve water quality, trap soil and sediments, protect coral reefs, and build up the land. They provide a nursery ground and habitat for fish, shellfish, and other species, as well as a refuge for marine animals. Jamaican mangroves present ecotourism opportunities and support local livelihood.